I wanted to talk about the Ponzi scheme of climate change. And all you scumbag entities, Ponzi entities, advertised entities, and people that act just like them, or maybe they're overtaken by entities. Entities can get people, they're real stupid, but they're real specific sometimes. And they might get you like really hellbent. Like, say, if you got obsessed with some like stupid product you saw in a commercial that you were like, oh, that's amazing. And then you get like obsessed with it. That's like not normal. There's a point where it's like, that's kind of how they're angling people with like television product advertising, and even up to the point of them making themselves a bunch of money, whereas the product is you giving them money that's supposed charity, but it's actually going to no avail. And they're just scumbag grifters, and Bill Gates is one of them. I'm not going to say that guy might not know how to tie his shoes, but everything else he's talking about is pretty much just a big grift. Now, on a spiritual level, I know God said on a ministry I listened to back when I was in Virginia, more than like a little, let me think, almost two years ago. He said, absolutely, he said climate change isn't real. That's not a problem, what's going on. He said that's just what they're like observing in their scientific, oh, the temperature, oh, this, oh, the water level. He said that's just something I'm doing and it's fine. Like, it's literally just part of like you might call it nature, but there's things God does, nature and supernature, and for God it's all blended together because he can separate things for us, but he knows everything everywhere, you know. So whether you call it earthly or nature or supernatural, but it does seem to, it's just part of what you account how much rain fell in the last year. It's kind of like stuff just happens. But sometimes God makes special things happen. Like take an example with like the plagues of Egypt that happened back then. That was stuff. Some of that would be, supernatural weather phenomena. That's like, whoa, this defies just raining. But there was times where he had it rain in intense, like the flood, and there was like times where he held the rain away from the people and the land too for long periods of time. The God's in control. The thing is, like, these people have like a problem because they're acting like they're the like weather police and then the nature protectors, but they're not. They're the biggest parasites. They're some of the biggest parasites there really are on the earth, because they grift and lie and cheat and they play up a little act. Oh, this, I could do what they do, but I don't do that. I have self-respect. I don't lie. I'm not a grifter. You know, the truth, being full of the truth actually makes you really blessed. And at least live in the truth, because it's priceless. All the money they're collecting, grifting, looking for handouts, they have no self-respect, and they get no respect from real people that have respect. And the Lord surely looks at them as what? Pathetic. Not the good kind of pathetic, like the sad cute puppy and sad saint look pathetic. The bad kind of pathetic. Like, what? Pathetic losers. These guys just sit there, lie, and try to get money from everyone, and they're trying to control the world. Yeah, I think Bill Gates has a problem with, like, Ed Buck, like, needle injecting black guys or black kids or black young boys or whatever, wherever their interests really fall. But it's pretty obvious. I mean, how many... if you study what Ed Buck and do some serious homework on him, and then look at, like, all, like, the pictures and articles of, like, Bill Gates putting needles in black kids' arms, it's just like, Ed Buck was into watching them die or overdose on liquid meth. Bill Gates is into giving them, like, maybe, like, vaccines or fake vaccines. That's the other thing. Yeah, lately there's been some fake vaccines, and it's pretty major. They even tried to force them into the military and force them into the private sector. I know people that told me they lost their job if they didn't comply, and other people, I had to get vaxxed. If you feel like you had to get fake vaxxed with a fake vaccine, this has gotten to the point of past, like, a fucking Harrison Bergeron fucking sci-fi novel, like some weird shit where it's like, that is like Because they would try to Dr. Kevorkian you if they could. This is CCP, North Korea, globalism. They're junkies. They jerk off to watching people that they hurt, suffer, or die, or they're putting people into poverty. Or they're taking tons of money. If they really cared about the environment, they would know, how health and people and energy works, and actually good energy, where good energy and true joy is real joy. Love isn't lost. Real joy, where it resonates, if you actually looked at it with their science machines and frequency readers and light readers and stuff, you would see, like, there is actually an effect to that, and that's what God actually teaches. So, their whole thing is, like, lies. Like Jesus says, the devil is the father of lies. And they try to put everything always in circles. They infiltrate the governments, they got all around, they put their money all around through lobbyists and private deals in the background, and it gets dirtier and dirtier. There's the whole disgusting, like, black porn, like, dark porn, level with, like, the Epstein, etc., and all that, too, because major blackmail and extortion going on in the background, and then to the point where it was, like, the bad people were running it, and and I'm sure there were several of these clubs. Like, you got the CCP in China. I'd say that's definitely one of these dark, it's almost like dark Muertes Death Lodge masonry, like dark Death Lodge masonry, because there was good masons at times in history too. I want you to know that. A few. It seems like it wasn't a majority, and especially in recent times. Especially, there's been a lot of changes in those clubs and groups and secret societies and lodges over millennia. I mean, if in the Old Testament, God says the word Masons. He says, go to the Masons. There's men there that still believe in God. But this was thousands of years ago. And with everything that happened through Europe and Italy, you got the different splits with the Scottish Rite, and then you got these different degrees, and then you got twisted different degrees where I think, like, the P. Diddy dark satanic, like, fake sacrifice people that are like, they just want to murder people, and they're just sickos. They're, again, sickos that jerk off to death, basically. This is like, if you know what a French death club is, like, think of, like, France and, like, oh, blah, blah, well, people would sit around at cafes and at clubs and at houses and have tea and act exquisite while they sat there and talked about disgusting, evil, almost witchcraft or rotting flesh and nasty, disgusting things. So they probably like talking curses and darkness and spreading shadows of death and stuff like that. It's really stupid. I find these people distasteful and disgusting. I just, puke on their shoes spiritually. That's all I have to say to them, and that's my baseline reaction overall. But God has some serious problems with these people. And I agree with him too on this level, but you gotta let the Lord work it out. But, witches and stuff, people speaking death and curses and evil report. There's witches, like in the abyss, in the fire pits and stuff like that, to give you an idea. Witches have also been murderers a lot of the time. A lot of the murderers that have a fetish for murder, that it's not just like some, like, manslaughter charge or this or that, or like a self-defense or a military killing terrorists. That's different. That's like protection of the nation and everything, and that's not murder. That's a different type of thing, and that's, God knows and has this going on, and there's reasons for it to be going on. Like God said, I'm cutting off Hezbollah also a couple years ago when we were down in Virginia, and the next week it was the official start of this war, and I was like, oh shit, like, he just said that, like, last week. And I was like, I see him cutting off Hezbollah. And in the earthly manifestation, you might see militaries but dropping bombs on people and shooting them and stuff. But it's because God behind the scenes said, okay, it's time I'm cutting off Hezbollah. So to me, I see it as a holy genocide, that God decided to genocide them out of the tree of life itself. The life itself. He said, I'm done with this, I'm cutting this off. Just like if a branch on a tree gets sick, what do? You say, oh, that's my prized tree over there. Oh, there's some disgusting thing on it, And you see that it's doing damage to the further, and it's spreading up to the tree. It's like You know what I mean? You cut it off. It's pretty simple. Just a stupid comparison, but that's what's going on. Yeah, Mortates and Sodomites and people that roll like that aren't just Hezbollah or Hamas or what's that other one? The African extremist Muslims, whatever. They're all extremist Muslim lunatics. All right, and it's really just that they're like terrorists. You know what they want to do. You know their attitude. They're really, really big on raping little kids and incest and gangbanger methods, just like the Spanish Fly Muertes fentanyl groups over there and the Chinese and they work together too. The Chinese tried to often pay the Mexicans or the south of the border to flood our streets with criminals, drugs, and all kinds of stealing, like thieves and chaos. And yeah, there's a whole organized lines that they send things overseas on boats and crates up in New York, and there's things over in, by California, and they've been going on since the 80s. I mean, I've read outline papers on this that's like college level stuff. That's just like published stuff that it's like, this stuff's very detailed, and they've known about it going on for like decades. Like, Panama Papers is another place to look. Anyway, I'm glad that God's cutting these people off, and he said, I'm doing something new and changing everything. So, he said everything's going to be so much different. He said, we've never